You're listening to WCOM LP 103.5 FM Carborough and Chapel Hill. It's a Tuesday, it's 5 o'clock, and that only means one thing. It's time for another round of Snarky Faith with your host, Stuart Deloney. This is a space where we irreverently wrestle through life, culture, and spirituality, all with our heads in the clouds, our tongues in our cheeks, our hearts in our sleeves, and our feet on the ground. At Snarky Faith, the questions or even the answers are never the point. It's all about the conversation. So here's your host, Stuart Deloney.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to another round of Snarky Faith Radio. I'm your host, Stuart Deloney, and welcome again to another week here with more news, more snark, more everything. Now, I have to apologize. I got to apologize. I took a week off. Off from the show, and in the news and everything else, all hell breaks loose. Had a few people emailing me saying, we need Snarky Faith. We need it back. Where are you? Why don't we have a show? So, okay. So fine. Here's your stinking show. No, I'm kidding. I'm so happy to be back. Just took a little time off because, yeah, I think I, like all of you out there, have probably had a bit of fog in the brain. And I want to go ahead and begin the show by issuing, and I don't usually do this, so maybe I should more often, but I'm going to go ahead and issue a trigger warning as I'm beginning to explain to you what we're going to talk about this hour. And it really shouldn't be something, that's a trigger warning, but if anyone has been brought up around Christianity, specifically evangelical Christianity, even more specifically conservative evangelical Christianity. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the truth today. That was my trigger warning right there. It's not that bad. See, it's not that bad. But for me, I get triggered when I hear people say, like, you know, we have the truth. Like, how many times I've seen someone talk about having God's truth and like waving the Bible over their head. We're the right ones. We're the ones that have the truth. Ad nauseum in that. So we will be talking today really about what we do with truth in like this age of misinformation that we're living in. Yes, I take the week off. We have impeachment not happening, which nobody was surprised at that one. We have the State of the Union. We have the National Prayer Breakfast. We have this. And what else did we have this week? We had a lot of it. We had a lot going on. So we're going to be talking a lot today about misinformation. And so I really want you to be taking your notes, students. Not really. But be paying attention because I'm going to try to loop a lot of the stuff that we're doing at the top of our hour into stuff that we're doing at the mid to end of our hour as well here. Hopefully. We will get to that. But we are living in a day and age right now where we're very polarized. We are very, especially here in America, that there is like this, it feels like we have a Grand Canyon between different sides in the population, and it feels like people have come to this conclusion that they have the truth, the other side doesn't have the truth, and vice versa. And so I really want to be talking about this, especially in the context of faith and why truth should matter. And no, I'm not going to use this as some sort of a weird diatribe to shove the Bible down your throats. But I want to really kind of be talking about truth in the aspect of I have eyes, I can see, and we're surrounded by reality. That kind of truth. Does that make sense? Like if I see something that then the other side is trying to tell us didn't exist or didn't happen or isn't really there. Yeah, it kind of gets very Orwellian after a while. So I'm wanting us to really continue to remain very vigilant, very awake, and very aware of what's happening because, especially as we're moving towards the 2020 election, stuff's going to get a little crazy. It's going to get even crazier. So that's kind of that's the setup. That's the pitch. That's where we're going this hour. And we're going to hop in to our Christian Crazy because the Christian Crazy this week is not only crazy, but it shall serve a purpose to the overall theme of our lesson as we are seeking truth. Now, in the myriad of things that have happened in like the last week or week and a half, a lot of the crazy cluster F that has been going on. One of those things that were crazy was the Iowa caucuses, where apparently the Democrats crapped the bed in the form of organization and being able to actually get the numbers out. So yes, the Iowa caucus was a mess, but we all do know now, kind of after some of the dust settled, even though I think they're trying to recanvass it, which yeah. Larger question that we're not going to even answer today is why, oh why, do we start our primaries out in one of the whitest places on the planet of Earth? Iowa. I've driven around Iowa, and in Iowa there is more corn than people. Iowa has been one of the few places I've driven where I would lose cell coverage for long periods of time as I'm driving between cities, and there's nothing. Yeah, it was one of those places where I was like, what would happen if... that place, that Iowa, and somehow, they're numero uno in starting this. So when we're talking about truth, we really want to get to the bottom of this. And I think the Christian Crazy is a great way to serve this up. But many of you may be asking, really, like, what happened in Iowa? Like, who was behind this? How did this happen? Was this simply a mistake, or was it something more insidious? And of course, Rick Wiles from True News has the answer for us as we hop into the Christian Crazy, the insanity of Christianity that we like to highlight here on the show every week. So let's go ahead without further ado and hop into that, because really I think we need to know. We need to know what happened in that there Iowa caucus. So Rick, let's just see what he's got to say here.
Lord have mercy. The Lord is my shepherd. He know what I want.
And I do need to remind you that Rick Wiles, the host of True News that literally has a press pass to the White House, that True News, the Rick that liked to coin the phrase Jew coup, the Rick that also says he's not anti-Semitic, has thoughts about the Iowa caucus. So who could be behind it? Who? Yeah, it's going to go where you think it's going to go.
Saying that the pro-Israel owner of the Times of Israel newspaper, he's backing homosexual mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Yes.
All right? And he's the money man behind this app.
Yes.
Are you suggesting that the Israelis are influencing the election to have the Democrats nominate its first openly homosexual presidential candidate?
That would fit in with values that agree with that.
What happened last night is weird. And we've already pointed out there is an Israeli connection. Imagine that. There's an Israeli connection to the Iowa disaster last night.
Will the Times of Israel report that?
I don't know. They might accuse me of being anti-Semitic for saying it. But the truth is, there is an Israeli connection.
I mean, it's like Rick it's just like he can't help himself. He can't help himself because he's anti-Semitic. I don't like, if you are a person that somehow believes that the Jews are behind everything that is bad that is going on, I don't know what else. What other conclusions can you make, Rick? I don't know. But there you had it. And as we're continuing to talk about like truth, and again, Rick Wiles has a show called True News, but it's TRU, so we're not sure if it's really true or that's just like an acronym or something else for it. I don't know. But what we continue to see, like on this assault on truth, is A, I mean, this is one thing that we're going to see, scapegoating. And B, we're going to also see fear-mongering. Fear-mongering because Because what's going to happen because of this? What? Why? Like if we're taking his logic, if we're taking like Rick's mind here, which is probably be a scary place to be. But if we were to look at his like logic and where Rick is going with all of this, hey, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, don't worry. Don't worry. Rick's going to tell you exactly what's going to happen because it's not obvious to us mere mortals, but with someone that's, quick as a whip like Rick, he's got it. He's got it. And he's really been telling us this for years. For years.
I mean, this isn't too hard to figure out what's going on. A coup, a takeover of the United States of America, unless we resist. Now, I'll say one final thing about the takeover. I've warned the American people for years that if we did not repent as a nation, we would be taken into captivity and made slaves. We're witnessing it right now.
Yes.
We're about 80% into captivity right now. They're shutting down dissenting voices. They're censoring voices that refuse to go along with the agenda. We're deep into the captivity right now. We're losing our rights and freedoms, and we're being taken over by a foreign power that is anti-Christ. The very people who crucified Christ.
Oh, snap! That, my friends, is what we call anti-Semitism right there. But the reason I do bring up his craziness, his anti-Semitism, is the fact that what he's doing here, he is painting a worldview to a bunch of people that apparently, since we didn't repent as a nation, that someone made an app and now the Iowa caucus is being taken over by Israelis. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But people listen to this. People follow this. And what we're beginning to learn in this age of disinformation, voices like this that say they are giving you true news, that say that they are continuing to speak the word of God and putting a biblical context in all of this are nuts, because really all this is, it's totally bat shit crazy. It is bat shit crazy, and there's no nicer way to put it. But on a side note, how did bats' fecal droppings somehow become synonymous with crazy? I don't really know. We don't have time for that today. No time for that. Sorry. Okay. So I'm talking about the assault on truth. The assault on truth today. And it doesn't get any assaultier. We don't get any assaultier than when we talk about President Trump. That's right. It's even hard to continue to say President Trump, but yes. People elected him. And America, when are you going to learn from your mistakes? Yeah, we don't do that very well in America, but I don't know. But we're not really sure. So you want to think about craziness and an assault on truth. I'm going to play this clip and then I will explain it. Now, back through all of the impeachment trial craziness, we got to know a certain Ukrainian fella named Lev Parnas. And Lev was one of Rudy Giuliani's little henchmen. And Lev had kind of, I don't know if you want to say it's his kink, but it's his thing. Lev liked to record stuff. And he's been releasing this weird little treasure trove of things that he's recorded essentially to back himself up, to back that he was in the room, that he was there, that he was known, all these kind of things like that too. But there's a weird nugget. That I did because I love you guys. I had to find this in an 80-minute clip. Took me longer than it should have. Not 80 minutes long. But where Lev was at a dinner that Trump was engaged in, and towards the end of it, he says this, and what he's going to do here, and I know this is the Christian crazy, and I know that you're going to say this is nuts, because it is. It's certifiably nuts. But people are believing stuff like this, especially in this whole cult of Trump. And the fact that Trump has become some sort of a weird evangelical or a weird conservative cult should be very alarming. But every cult needs a leader. And every cult leader, one way or another, is a messiah. So let's go ahead and listen just a little bit of this, because it's crazy. Lev Parnas, we're going to listen to it from his iPhone in his pocket.
They want everybody at this table.
They do, but
they don't understand the cost of it because they're inefficient.
In the Hebrew religion, they wait for the Messiah to come.
Wow.
So the Messiah, Moshe ben
vault
David,
rate
if
should
you take their name written, you see where it adds up 424. If you take your name, Donald Trump, and then there's your name, it adds up to 424.
So let me go ahead and translate a bit, since you may not be able to hear all that they're talking about here. And so what this is, this conversation happened during the America First Action Super PAC dinner. And what Parnas is doing here, he's giving Trump what he says, and I don't know what this is because, again, you can't see anything. It's a gift from the head rabbi of the Ukraine, and some others supposedly like rabbis from Israel. What he's doing here, he's trying to explain to Trump that using Jewish numerology, another term for that would be gematria. So what he's really saying here is that the letters in Trump's name add up to the numbers 424, which is the same total as the Messiah. So they're saying, oh my gosh, it's like a miracle, which is awesome that Parnas in this actually is trying to explain to Trump who and what a Messiah is. So, again, I would assume that would be kind of Christianity 101, knowing what a Messiah is. But this is Trump. But yes, so he's describing Messiah as, quote, the person that will save the whole world, and tells Trump, so it's like you're the savior. And then, because Trump's not fully getting it, we're slightly anti-Semitic here, says, okay, well, if you don't understand numerology, you should ask your son-in-law, Jared. He'll explain it to you. Because, of course, Jared's Jewish. And yeah. Okay, so my reason for pointing this point out today is to continue to reinforce this whole idea of the cult of Trump. And the cult of Trump is their kryptonite in the cult of Trump is truth. It's the thing that gets them in trouble. Truth is bad. And as insane as that is, and if you want to even look back, we have been calling Trump the Orange Messiah of Christians. I want to say since 2015, maybe 2016, but I'm pretty sure it's 2015. Even like our show format has changed, but he has been to these folks the Orange Messiah, and it continues to blow my mind at how much Christians support and venerate Trump. They think he is some sort of Messiah type figure. Now, if you don't believe me, well, I don't bring him up on the show too often, but he is Christian and he's very crazy. But Christopher McDonald, who's kind of like an internet troll prophet, whatever you want to, I don't even really know what to classify him as. But yes, so he's having a discussion with another nutcase about the election that's coming up. Now, see if you can spot it where the cult of Trump pops its ugly head up in the midst of this engaging discussion amongst two masterminds.
I don't care who you got. I don't care who you put up. You could put Jesus Christ up in the Democrat Party, and he's losing this election. Because that's how important what Donald Trump has done for us in the economy has done for America. All of these factors, they're like, I don't want to take a chance on Jesus. Hell no. I'm going to go over here with Donald Trump because he's a known factor. He's helping my... Well,
I guess it goes back to that old adage. It's the economy, stupid. You know, Christianity's been getting it wrong all these years because apparently really what it means to follow after Christ is that you're you're benefiting from the economy. I'm pretty sure that's it. I really appreciate these. What the hell is this? Yes, this is a cult, and yes, it continues on. So, to further push this point through that truth doesn't really matter in the age of Trump, we have Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends, Fox and Friends, Fox and Friends. Almost, I feel like when I'm teeing that up in my mouth, the F makes me want to say something else. But Fox and Friends. So Fox and Friends, we're not all too happy that Mitt Romney used his faith as a part of his justification for voting against Trump in the impeachment hearings. The audacity of someone to use their faith against our Messiah? Oh, the audacity. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
By the way, regarding Mitt Romney, it was bipartisan in the vote for conviction by one. Mitt Romney the Washington Post has this headline: no senator ever voted to remove a president of his party from office until Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney is now suddenly the Democrats' favorite Republican. Mm-hmm. And if you saw Louis Gohmert on our air last night, he was wearing a button that said, Mitt, quit.
Yeah, I watched that interview with Chris Wallace, and he said these are his convictions. His faith is very important to him. He felt like...
Please don't bring religion. I mean, you're not bringing into it, but I'm saying for him to bring religion into this has nothing to do with religion. My faith it makes me do this. Are you kidding? What about your faith in this case meld together? I mean, that is unbelievable for him to bring religion into this. His faith. We already know how he felt. He gave a speech at 12 noon when it was candidate Trump, how unworthy he is for the office. This was his opportunity to show it. To me, it has nothing to do with faith.
Please send us your comments. friends@foxnews.com.
I think a lot of people are guided by their faith.
Oh, I just love at the end how, Steve drops a doozy that has to add into it. But I do think a lot of people say that they're guided by faith. This is coming from Fox News. At the same time, they like to be able to continue to push issues of faith, push people like Robert Jeffress onto it, saying like, what does a pastor think about this? But all of a sudden, with Mitt talks about his faith, what? This is inappropriate. This is so dang inappropriate here. Inappropriate. And finally, we've got Todd Starnes. Todd Starnes is a conservative radio host that used to be on the Fox network until he got punted off for a conversation that he had with Robert Jeffress. More on that later. But he was having a conversation with Robert Jeffress saying that Democrats worship the child-sacrificing demon god Moloch. So at that point, somehow Fox is like, it's a little much for us. I mean, so being rapey and generally creepy and weird at Fox is okay. But, when we start talking about demon worshiping and sacrifices, that's a bridge too far for Fox. But Starnes, yes, who has decried Christian persecution in the past, is also going to educate us a little bit on why Trump shouldn't turn the other cheek, like Jesus would at the National Prayer Breakfast when Trump decided to be Trump at the National Prayer Breakfast. Side note. For those of you that want to know a little bit more about the Prayer Breakfast, you should actually watch a documentary series on Netflix called The Family that talks about the origins of the National Prayer Breakfast. It's quite interesting. It's quite disturbing. And like the rest of this, you actually should probably watch it. So, Mr. Starnes, what are your thoughts?
And the president is absolutely right.
Of course he is.
From day one, for over 3 years, ladies and gentlemen, they have taken a baseball bat and they have been beating this man on his skull every single day. They've been targeting this president. They've been targeting the first lady. They've been targeting everyone that works in the administration. They've been targeting you, the gun-toting, Bible-clinging deplorables of America. They've been literally beating you in the streets, terrorizing you, trying to silence you, trying to tell you that you don't have a place in America. And finally, this president says, enough is enough. That's it. No more. And yet there are many people out there who say, you know what, Todd? The Christian thing to do is to turn the other cheek. Okay, well, this president turned the other cheek, and then he turned the other cheek. Then he turned his butt cheeks. It doesn't matter how many cheeks you have, because they're going to keep smacking you around. That's what they do. That's what these Democrats do. They hate this man. They want to destroy this man.
I will note that apparently, allegedly, Trump did like being smacked on his on his cheeks by Stormy Daniels, according allegedly to her testimony of things. Forbes magazine, Fanny. Okay. So, yes, you're getting the point. You're getting my point here where we're going with this. That we are living in a time where religion has been hijacked, where truth is is at risk of extinction. And we're at this place. And what do we need to do to continue to stay sane and to survive? Well, the first part of this is we're going to be talking about what does it mean to really be able to continue to speak our truth in the place that we're at. Now, we went through the Christian crazy, but I do want to tell you something that is actually good. So here's some actual good news. It's petty, but it's fun. And in this time, like one of my listeners said recently, we need something to be able to deal with this craziness that we're in right now. I got some good news for you. Franklin Graham, who is going on one of his evangelical tours because apparently he's still in his dad's business, Franklin Graham had big plans for being able to tour into the UK, having one of his evangelical rallies, but he's having a little bit of a problem because no venue will agree to be able to give him a platform for his tour. That's right. He's been turned down in Newcastle. He's been turned down in Birmingham, Newport, Glasgow, Milton Keynes, Sheffield, Liverpool, and also London. Oh, Franklin Graham can't find a venue for him to be able to spew hate and be just a disgusting human being. What? Yep. It may be petty, but I'm looking for good news in anywhere I can find it. So you know what? Take it in. So as we're trying to talk about good news and talking about truth and talking about Trump, which Trump has issues with truth. What is it? I think I'd read like a little while back that we're up to like 16,000 lies or deceptive wording that he has done since he's been president. Yeah, 16,000. But he's the Messiah still, folks. He's the Messiah. He's the chosen one. He's the chosen one to make certain people rich and happy. And he hates the same people that other people hate. So he's their weird, bigoted Messiah. Yay! Now, as we kind of teed off at the top of our show, truth is paramount. I mean, it kind of matters. Like, reality matters. Like, being able to say that my orange is orange, my apple is red, it kind of matters. And, I mean, it's kind of a big thing for us human beings. Being able to say what is true and what is not true. But in the age of Trump, we've kind of gotten into a little bit of like a sticky wicket with that, to where we are. Gosh, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get. Sorry. I will throw in less British references. And we know that truth matters. We know that truth matters, like even on the basic level of things. Like this is a president that we have had that has tried to say that a hurricane is going to a place it's not. So even in the most simplistic way of looking at truth, like there are basic truths. Like, where does this exist? Where is this located? Where do I need to go? Like even just being able to describe directions and weather and other things like that. So truth matters even on like on a very like granular level, but it also does on a very larger level, especially when we begin to talk about things of faith and religion and of politics, like especially that we've kind of seen as we went through this whole Trump impeachment fiasco, that yeah, we had many people saying he did something, and he says he didn't do something, but everyone else said he did something. So, yeah, that. And so I'm going to kind of tee off a lot of our conversation here from this comes from an article in The Atlantic by McKay Copings called The $1 Billion Disinformation Campaign to Re-elect the President. And in this, I'm going to go ahead and quote directly from this article, where they say this: what I was seeing was a strategy. And so they're beginning to describe in this article, in this piece, what is happening online and what Trump is using to be able to wield disinformation online. And so I'll pick you up there. So what I was seeing was a strategy that has been deployed by illiberal political leaders around the world. Rather than shutting down dissenting voices, these leaders have learned to harness the democratizing power of social media for their own purposes, jamming signals, sowing confusion. They no longer need to silence the dissident shouting in the streets. They can use a megaphone to drown him out. Scholars have a name for this: censorship through noise. Now, what we have seen here in the rise of the age of Trump is this: that you no longer have to necessarily win an argument. You just have to drown the truth out enough. If you keep talking, if you keep tweeting, if you keep throwing content out there online, if you keep having your minions spin lies, thousands of lies can cover up a single truth. So we live in an age where we are at a place where we are actually having to deal with avalanches of lies volleyed at us. And all of those are seeking to do is they're seeking to cover up the truth. Now, you may be listening to the show. You may be a believer. You may be not. You may be religious. You may be not. It doesn't really matter. Because some of this truth that we're talking about here today, it applies to all of us. And it applies to the fact that we need to become people that are a lot more savvy, a lot more awake, and a lot more aware. Because when there is an assault on truth, where misinformation is reigning, where does truth come from? Who speaks truth in this? I mean, we saw this. I mean, it is best seen through what happened during the whole impeachment hearings in the Senate. You can present enough truth. You can present the actual truth. What did Trump do? Well, he did this. But then you also have this avalanche of BS that begins to happen. Well, it wasn't because of this. Oh, because of this, because whatever. But we are covered. The truth gets covered. The truth gets pushed away in avalanches of misinformation. And that is a troubling place for us to be, indeed. And for the faithful, we have to be very careful about who are the mouthpieces that are spewing misinformation about Jesus, about Christianity, about the Bible, about what it says there. And that's where we are at this crucial place where the way forward is not easy. To be apathetic means to continue to let the avalanches win. And to be able to combat that needs people organized and speaking truth, irregardless of the misinformation that's happening. Because what can happen is when there's so much misinformation out there, it can make us apathetic. It can make us want to shut down, and no longer speak. Because, again, I'm going to quote again from The Atlantic, they no longer need to silence the dissident shouting in the streets. They can use a megaphone to drown him out. This is called censorship through noise. Now, I want to offer this. Now, this is something that can speak through the noise. We need to move to a place where we can continue to speak our own truth to those around us. Now, in that whole like megaphone metaphor, social media oftentimes tries to be a megaphone for people. So they're shouting into the abyss. They're shouting into the Twitterverse. They're shouting into the Facebook whatever. And we're kind of shouting into this void what we think or what we want to think or what we want others to think. But the key here is we need to become people that are adept at speaking our own truth. And let me define what that means. Because again, yeah. So that statement can be taken in many different directions, meaning that it's one thing to take other people's words and throw them out there. It's one thing to take other people's talking points and throw them out there as our own. But it's another thing for us to begin to share our own stories. Share our own stories that contain truth. And why does that matter? Well, one thing I have always known, not that I've always known, but something that I've learned through a lot of rough patches in life is this. People can argue, like we've seen already through today, people can argue about truth. They can throw their own bent, they can throw their own shade on all this other stuff. But people have a hard time speaking out against your own personal stories and your own personal truth. We heard earlier Fox News was trying to like tear down Mitt Romney because Mitt Romney was speaking out against what he felt mattered to him. That's his truth. That's his story. That's his walk. And in an age that we live in social media too, social media can oftentimes bend us or push us towards being fake. I'm not saying fake news, but towards being disingenuous or towards being like a cardboard cutout of ourselves. And a remedy for that and a remedy for misinformation is telling our stories, is telling our truth. Because there is a power to personal stories. Like we've lived it, we have earned it, we have walked through it. And at the same time, there's a vulnerability to our personal stories. And that vulnerability is scary. And it keeps us from sharing our stories because we don't know how people are going to handle our stories. But that vulnerability ends up being the thing that makes those stories so much more powerful. And as we live in this age where truth is assaulted, we need to more and more and more and more be able to speak our own truth from our own stories, to speak about our own pain, speak about things where stuff has gone wrong. And I was reading this article in Psychology Today from Dr. Andrea Pollard. And this doesn't fully fit with what we're talking about, but I'm going to pull out the parts that do. There's an article about America like losing its religion. And she's talking about this from a psychological standpoint. And so I'm going to quote just some different parts of this. And I think that these are things, and she's speaking about this from a psychological standpoint of losing religion and what does it mean for mental health. Now, in the article, she's quoting from the Pew Research Center. So it says this. It says in 2017, the Pew Research Center reports that around 27% of U.S. adults declare themselves as spiritual but not religious. Okay, they're declaring these as the nones. The nones are becoming more common across the political spectrum, and mainline Protestant denominations, which tend to be more liberal, have more liberal views of science and sexuality, are declining faster than evangelical churches, which tend to be more conservative. So we're seeing these nones are rising. The nones are rising. The people that have had enough of stuff are pulling away from church, are pulling away from religion, especially in more liberal areas, because the faith that they are seeing isn't the faith they're seeing in the Bible isn't the faith that's being walked out in America. In America, faith has become more of a weapon. And because of that, 44% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 29 declare themselves as nuns. They're spiritual, but they are not religious. They do not ascribe to this. And what the article is kind of talking through is the benefits in certain ways of religion. And they put it like this. And she says the writer and practical philosopher Alain de Botton, who is actually an atheist, strongly believes in the power of thinking, but is also convinced that we need a lot more than reason to assure inner calm and goodness. Instead of rejecting religion, he advises us to learn from it. He points out that religion shows us how to come together, how to sing together, how to perform calming rituals, how to sit in a dark room with candlelights together, how to celebrate the seasons together, and how to help us remember that everything is important through repetition. And religion helps us, for example, to remember again and again and again to be kind to one another. Religion also features art and astonishing architecture, which instills awe and helps us to transcend the realm of stuff. And what I was loving that's coming out of this article is this idea that we don't want to throw all of this out. We don't want to throw all of this out. But I feel like that we need to continue to reinvent what it means to be community, what it means to follow God, what it means to be Christian. And in many ways, I'm challenged because I feel like the words that we use, the language, just like the literal words that we use within Christianity or to describe ourselves as followers of Jesus have become so tainted. They become so tainted in this age of Trump. And they were tainted before. So I'm not hanging this all on him. They've been tainted for quite a while. They've been used to wield the words of the Bible against those that are marginalized, to hurt people, to make people feel that God does not love them. And that is objectively wrong. But what we have seen is, I think it's in the age of Trump, we've seen all of this come to fruition. All of these dirty, dirty, dirty desires that people and power brokers within the faith, they have so long wanted for, have come to a head in the Orange Messiah. So he is exactly what they want. And he is exactly something that is anti-Christ. Now, I'm not getting into end times BS here, but if you really look at this from a state, I mean, just from a very a very easy standpoint here, Trump is nothing like Jesus. But yet, so many religious followers here in America follow him like he is. And what that tells us is the faith that American Christianity is not really that comfortable with Jesus. They are not really comfortable with who Jesus is, what he said, and what he did. That's an important distinction to make. And see if you can spot this distinction. When Robert Jeffress, yes, I know half of you just threw up in your mouth. Sorry. When Robert Jeffress is defending the president on Fox, let's see if we can see where this distinction, where somehow to this version of Christianity, Jesus no longer matters in the age of Trump. See if you can spot it. Just see if you can spot it. It's not hard.
To you, Pastor.
Good morning. Good to be with you guys.
So National Prayer Breakfast, usually not political, but it was yesterday.
Well, it was. And look, you know, this president, he absolutely hates phoniness. He can smell it a mile away. And the president thinks there's something inherently phony about saying that you're praying for him while you're working 24/7 to destroy him. And by the way, the Bible supports his skepticism. James 3:10 says we shouldn't be blessing and cursing people at the same time. And look, the president honored me me by allowing me to attend a dinner Wednesday night that he was hosting for the organizers of this prayer breakfast. And he talked very honestly about the unrelenting attacks he and his family have been under for the last 3 years.
Right.
And somebody in the group said, well, Mr. President, the Bible says, Jesus said that we're to love our enemies.
Right.
So he turned to me. He said, Robert, what do you say about that? And I said, Mr. President, to love your enemies means to want God's best for them. But it doesn't mean you're going to be unified with them. Truth divides people. And I believe that as long as this president continues to speak truth, especially about the sanctity of life and religious liberty, the left is going to continue to hate him. They're going to continue to try to destroy him, and they're not going to be holding hands with him singing Kumbaya.
So there we have it. Yes, this president, as Jefferson is putting this, needs to continue to speak truth. 16,000 lies or deceptive statements? Speak truth. What does that even mean to Trump? And poor Trump is just, as we heard before, he's turned the other cheek so many times, no more cheeks. So I don't know what to do. And at this point, it may seem very discouraging. It may seem very discouraging that truth doesn't seem to matter in politics. It doesn't seem to matter in Christian spheres anymore. And that a lot of these folks would rather believe in weird conspiracy theories, fantasies, and lies than actually see what's right in front of them. And I know that's discouraging. I know that's difficult. I know that's hard because we have to wake up every day and be confronted with lies. Be confronted in the fact that, hey, Trump got off. He got off. I'm not talking about Stormy Daniels, but but it seems like truth doesn't matter, that justice doesn't matter, and consequence doesn't matter anymore in many ways. And it is incredibly frustrating. And it is frustrating to the point that it leads many people towards apathy. And we begin to look at even just Christianity today. It's hard to see Jesus anymore because I feel like Christianity looks more like the heart of misinformation. It looks like anti-vaxxers. It looks like crazy homeschool parents that somehow want to hide their kids from the world because the world's going to end. Looks a lot like the Christian crazy. I know that's very difficult for us to continue to get up and to continue to fight the good fight. But we have to continue to be reminded that Jesus matters, that truth matters, that loving others matters. What I said before, and I will continue to say this and encourage this to you again and again and again, is to speak your truth, your story, your truth. Because as much as people want to try to, right now, in these insane circles, fight with facts, global warming and things of that nature. People, it's not happening. La 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 la. As I continue to, if I put my fingers in my ears and continue to stay in my echo chambers, life will be exactly the way I want it to be. No, but there's power in speaking truth. So for the remainder of the show, I want to just give you an example of what I'm talking about. Example of what it looks like to be able to speak your truth and how your truth can make a difference in people. And so this example comes recently from Kristin Chenoweth, actress who's been on Broadway and films and everything, Kristin Chenoweth. And she was speaking at the Human Rights Campaign at their 2020 gala, where she was given an award for being an ally for human rights. And she used that platform to tell about her faith and how her faith, what it means for her to be a Christian and to also be an LGBTQ advocate. So let's listen to her.
I hear. So I'm just going to speak my truth. In the 3rd grade, I had a friend named Jackie Bell, and we would walk to and from school together. And we got to school one day, and in Oklahoma, where I'm from, we have a thing called the Land Run. And the Land Run is where at recess, we put a little toothpick, and that's where and that's our land, and then we eat lunch there. So Jackie and I just couldn't wait to get we wanted it by the seesaw. We wanted our land to be by the seesaw. And one day we were walking, we had our little toothpicks and land run signs, and somebody yelled, "Hey, Dyke." And I went, "What's that?" And she goes, "Nothing, nothing." I could tell she was embarrassed, and I went home that night, and I said, I was getting all my land run signs ready, and I was in the middle of it. I said, "Mom, what's a dyke?" And she said, "A word we don't use." I said, "Well, what's it mean?" She goes, "It's when two women love each other, two girls love each other." I go, "Is it wrong?" She goes, "I don't think so." Now, can I just say how lucky I am that I had that for a mom? In Oklahoma? So, as an adopted child, if people don't believe in miracles, I say, "Thank you, God, for putting me in the right family," right? So the next day, we go to the land run, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm competitive. And I got this land run, this section of land by the seesaw with Jackie. And we're sitting there, and I said, "I know what dyke means. I know." She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want you to be." I said, "Oh, please, please." And then right then, a girl came up and yelled it again. And I said, I'm gonna kick your butt." Now, what you don't know about me, or maybe now you've gathered, I'm 4'11", so the person didn't seem very nervous by this, that I was. Skip 2, I'm a freshman at Oklahoma City University, and I immediately meet my best friend, Denny Downs. And he said, I'm probably gonna go to hell because I'm gay. I said, no, you're not going to hell. No, that jerk that cut us off at 7-Eleven is going to hell. You are not, my friend. So I went to my grandma, and I said, I'm just telling y'all my truth. I went to my grandma, and I said, who's in heaven now, like literally Southern Baptist, straight line to God. I said, Grandma, I have a question. I want to know why gay people are going to hell. Now, I've had it. First, Jackie Bell, which our friendship ended after she went and got my same coat from Target. Anyway. Jackie. I'm just kidding. I was a little mad, but then my mom said, "Take it as a compliment. She got your same coat." Anyways, I promise I'm going to wrap this up. So Denny, I asked my grandma Chinny, I said, "Is Denny going to go?" I just don't get it. And she said, "Well, you know what I do? I read the Bible like I eat fish. I take the meat that serves me well, but I don't choke on a bone." So I said to Denny, "No one here is going to hell. Everybody calm down." And I've just quoted Grandma Chinny. I wonder if you know how many times I've quoted it. And obviously, coming to New York at 22, my mind and my heart and a lot of things opened up. But I'm glad you're taking what I'm throwing down. Anyway, in times like this, I'm taking a page from the great Miss Carol Burnett. I want us to laugh. I still want us to fight. I still want us to continue to be strong. And I want us, more importantly, to continue to stick together. And when hate faces us just full on, we respond in what? Amen. And thank you for this award. Good night.
I love so much about what she's saying here is that in the face of hate and intolerance, that we need to continue to speak love. To speak love. Truth matters, love matters, and I feel like they're one and the same. So as I end this broadcast, it's just a reminder, you can catch us on podcast at www.snarkyfaith.com. If you have questions, if you have feedback, if you have criticism, you can reach out to me at questions@snarkyfaith.com. It's just that easy. I love it all. And you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and other places, and anywhere that they broadcast podcasts out there. But as we end this show here together, I want to continue to encourage you to speak your truth, to live out this principle of love in our communities and to those that we encounter. And it is hard. It is a hard thing to do oftentimes, but I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. So as I send you out here, I send you out into the world with the holiest amount of grace and snark and peace. Go out and make a difference because we need you to. We all need you to make that kind of a difference in the world today. I'll catch you guys again next week. I am out of here. Peace.
WCOM is listener-supported community radio, and Snarky Faith is only possible through our sponsors. Lumen, a spiritual community of seekers, sojourners, question askers, doubters, and skeptics, is a collective of fellow travelers that embrace the truth that all of life is sacred, hope is real, and tomorrow can be a better day than today. All are welcome. You can find more information at www.lumencommunities.com.